Hare Krishna, welcome all the devotees. Radha Gopinath Circle welcomes you for morning Mangalarati Japa session and all auspicious Srimad Bhagavatam session. Now we are in first canto, fifth chapter, Narada's instructions on Srimad Bhagavatam for Vyasadeva. And we are doing 27th sloka, and the flowchart goes like this: 23rd to 31 verses. Narada Muni narrates his past life, as we have been hearing from all the leaders, Rajanath Prabhu, Varaha Prabhu, that Narada, he was very enthusiastic, and also he is inspiring Vyasadeva by sharing his past life. So these 23rd to 31 verses, they talk about these three items. So we are in 24 to 29 stages in Narada Muni's devotion. So how he underwent various stages, and how it helped him to become son of Brahma in his next life. All these things he has very nicely explained. Let us take this opportunity. So Narada Muni, actually he got a higher taste of the personality of Godhead Krishna, and and after that his attention to hear the glories of the Lord, it became very unflinching for him. So as we heard in the previous verses, Narada Muni, when he was a child, he invited all these Vaishnavas, saintly people. He and his mother served him to the best of their level. And also he received the Uchista of these saintly people. As you know, Pada Jala, Pada Duli, and Uchista are the most powerful potents to make us in our Krishna consciousness. So he served them, and he had their remnants, and he had got a higher taste now. Now, in this verse 1527, what does it talk about? Let's also discuss. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrutyam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tado Jayam Udirayet. Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavati Uttama Sloke. Bhaktir bhavati naistiki. Makam karoti vachalam pangam langayate girim. Yat krupatvam maham mande Shri Guru Tinatarana. Tasmiṁs tadā labdha-rucer mahā-mate. Is there anybody who can repeat after me?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Tasmiṁs tadā labdha-rucer mahā-mate.
Tasmiṁs tadā labdha-rucer mahā-mate.
Tasmiṁs tadā labdha-rucer mahā-mate.
priyaśravasy askhalitā matir mama.
priyaśravasy askhalitā matir mama.
Yayāham etat sad-asat sva-māyayā.
Yayāham etat sad-asat sva-māyayā.
paśye mayi brahmaṇi kalpitam pare.
paśye mayi brahmaṇi kalpitam pare.
Thank you, Mataji. Word meaning, translation, and purport by His Divine Grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Word meaning, tasmin, it being so, tadā. At that time, labdha achieved ruceḥ taste, mahā-mate, of great sage, priyaśravasy, upon the Lord, askhalitā matiḥ, uninterrupted attention, mama, mind, yayā, by which aham, I, etat, all these, sat-asat, gross and subtle, sva-māyayā, one's own ignorance, paśye, see, mayi, in me, brahmaṇi, the supreme, kalpitam is accepted, pare, in the transcendence. Translation. O great sage. Now Narada Muni sharing with Vyasadeva. O great sage, as soon as I got a taste of the personality of Godhead, my attention to hear of the Lord was unflinching. And as my taste developed, I could realize that it was only in my ignorance that I had accepted gross and subtle coverings. For both the Lord and I are transcendental. But ignorance in material existence is compared to darkness, and in all Vedic literature, the personality of Godhead is compared to sun. So the purport is a little bigger. So let me finish my prayers and get back in sharing the views on this 1527. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnana Anjana Shalakaya Chakshmurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Suyatapatakabalam Sri Guru Vaishnavamcha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunadanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Cha Vishakanvitam Cha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostame Taptakan Chana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusuti Devi Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for joining. We are 54 in number. So we'll move ahead with the words. And here it is nicely shared by Narada Muni. He was addressing, "Oh great sage, Vasudev, as soon as I got a taste of the personality of Godhead." That means he heard the glories of the Lord, because the saintly persons they had been discussing the various pastimes of the Lord, and he was completely absorbed in that. On the top of that, he and his mother also served all these saintly people. They had this Pada Jala and also the Uchista and Pada Duli, and they were so ecstatic now. But here he is mentioning that as my taste developed, I could realize that it was only in my ignorance that I had accepted gross and subtle coverings. That means he had taken another birth in this way. But here, at the end, he mentions that both Lord and I are transcendental. Means I here referring to the soul. The soul and the Lord, they are transcendental. They are existing eternally, as we learn in Bhagavad Gita 2nd chapter also. Vamsha, Jivaloke, and in so many other parts of Bhagavad Gita we learn. But in the purport, he mentions, Srila Prabhupada mentions, ignorance in material existence is compared to darkness. Just like we entered into a dark room, as soon as we enter, but if we can able to switch on the light, and there is no question of any darkness there. But here ignorance is compared to darkness. And in all Vedic literature, the personality of Godhead is compared to the sun. Say, when when the sun comes into the picture, there is no question of darkness. Like, if somebody wants to show the sun, he cannot put any torchlight or some other lamp, and he cannot show the sun like that. There is no need. When sun comes, all the rays have been illuminated, and everywhere there is light. Wherever there is light, there cannot be darkness. Wherever there is Krishna, there cannot be ignorance. And this is a wonderful lesson Narada Muni he got realized himself, because he heard about the glories of the Lord. He heard Krishna Katha very attentively. So here in these words, the hearing has got very, very importance. And if anybody has got his attention towards hearing the holy name of the Lord on the first part, and also in the second part, hearing the Krishna Katha, and they are completely purified. Hearing of the Lord pastimes is itself transcendental association with the Lord, because there is no difference between the Lord and his transcendental pastimes. That's why it is mentioned Kalikale Nama Rupa Krishna Avatara. Krishna has appeared in his names, in his pastimes. Whoever are discussing the pastimes or wherever Krishna Katha, Hari Katha is happening, the Lord is automatically present. And there where there is no question of darkness, in the sense there is no question of any ignorance. To become associated with the supreme light is to dissipate all ignorance. So if we want to associate, we need to come to the light, and for that we need to avoid all this kind of ignorance. By ignorance only, the conditioned soul wrongly thinks that both he and the Lord are products of material nature. So this is the biggest problem. So we should not be body consciousness, and we should not engage our body unnecessarily into various things which are not auspicious or which are not supportive for the soul. But in fact, the personality of Godhead and the living beings are transcendental, and they have nothing to do with the material nature. Actually, we don't belong to this material nature. We belong to the spiritual world. But by mistake, we came here, and we should realize that we came by mistake. And again, we should go back to Godhead. That happens only by taking Krishna consciousness. When ignorance is removed and it is perfectly realized that there is nothing existing without the personality of Godhead, then nescience is removed. Nescience means avidya. Avidya means it is a kind of ignorance, kind of bodily consciousness. Since the gross and subtle bodies are emanations from the personality of Godhead, the knowledge of light permits one to engage both of them in the service of the Lord. When we do the service of the Lord, automatically we cannot be caught by any kind of maya. The gross body should be engaged in acts of rendering service to the Lord, as in bringing water, cleansing the temple, or making obeisances, dandavat pranams. The path of, okay, here Srila Prabhupada has elaborately explained here the importance of engaging ourselves, our body, mind, and soul, manasa, vacha, karma, how we can engage. If anybody follows this Navavida Bhakti, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Svaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Mandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam, all these three bodies are completely engaged. Gross body, subtle body, and spiritual body. So the path of Archana or worshipping the Lord in the temple involves engaging one's gross body in the service of the Lord. Similarly, the subtle mind should be engaged in hearing the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, thinking about them, chanting his name, etc. All such activities are transcendental. So when we come for our Bhakti Vriksha and when we come to the temple, and automatically, we pay dandavats to the devotees and to the Supreme Lord, and we all gather, and so nicely we do Harinam Sankirtan, and also we hear Srimad Bhagavatam class from a bona fide devotees. And it is so wonderful that all our three bodies completely get engaged. And Srila Prabhupada gives one warning here. What is that? None of the gross or subtle senses should be otherwise be engaged. So we should not misuse our gross body by unnecessarily engaging in a frivolous sports or illicit sex and all other things. Such realization of transcendental activities is made possible by many, many years of apprenticeship in the devotional service. Yeah, when it's devotional service, it is gradual. All of a sudden, it does not happen. That's why we also take a training or apprenticeship. And how does it happen? When you come to ISKCON, and we have various crash courses like Shraddhavan, Krishna Sevak, Krishna Upasak, and Guru Ashraya, Harinam Diksha. So when we take this apprenticeship, and there is a progress in our devotional service. But Srila Prabhupada also emphasizes at the same time, but simply attraction of love for the personality of Godhead, as it was developed in Narada Muni by hearing, is highly effective. That's why we must always try to hear from a bona fide people, and we should make notes. Yesterday, our Rajnath Variraj Prabhu was mentioning, as long as you hear, you must carry pen and notebook and note down. And after note down also, who will read that? You only have to read it again and again. If you don't simply close the book and keep it aside, there isn't much use, and nobody also will read. And it is our duty to again, recapture and reread, and how best we can implement in our life. All these things will make us perfect in our hearing and progressing in Krishna consciousness. Now, then what is the root cause of this ignorance? This is a very important point. Answer is material consciousness is the root cause of our ignorance. And Srila Prabhupada gives a small definition for this material consciousness means thinking falsely independent. That is material consciousness. Falsely, he is not independent, but he is thinking falsely, I am independent. This is Maya. Many people, they don't want to depend on the holy name of the Lord, on the lotus feet of the Lord, or on the Vaishnavas. They think I am independent. I'm I long back I joined ISKCON, or I have been chanting. I'm following all regulatory principles, and I don't want to hear anybody, or I'm completely independent. This mentality is called material consciousness, and this material consciousness is the root cause of our ignorance. And if one is in ignorance and completely he is in a darkness, if you can see, as Srila Prabhupada was mentioning all our subtle body, gross body to be engaged. As you know, this gross body is made of earth, water, air, and ether. And inside there is another body that is called subtle body. It is made of mind, intelligence, and false ego, manas, buddhi, and ahankar. And inside there is a soul which is eternal, and it is made of Sat, Chit, Ananda, eternity, knowledge, and bliss. Now, the point Srila Prabhupada emphasizes all these three bodies to be completely engaged in Krishna consciousness, and there is a sure progress in our Krishna consciousness. Okay, there is one famous devotee in our Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. His name is Sri Narottam Das Thakur. And he gives one stunning statement. It's really fantastic. And just listen what he says. By making dust of the Vaishnava's feet of the ornament of body. So wonderful. So we thought of only touching the dust of the Vaishnavas, but he says the dust of the feet of the Vaishnavas to be the ornament of the body. That means he has to take the dust and put on his head and smear on his heart. And in this way, we have to decorate our body. And he also mentions ecstatic realizations are achieved by doing that. Washing the Vaishnava's lotus feet is my method of worship. So wonderful. And by always associating with the Vaishnavas, I shall overcome the darkness of ignorance. Srila Narottam Das Thakur. See his mood and his realization is so wonderful. That's why in Guru Vandana, in the third prayer, he has given one wonderful understanding. What is that? Chakshudan dilo jai, janme janme prabhu se, divignan hude prakashito. Prema bhakti jaha haite, avidya vinasha jate, vedegai jahara charito. The meaning is, he who has given me the gift of transcendental vision is my Lord, birth after birth. By his mercy, divine knowledge is revealed within the heart, bestowing prema bhakti and destroying ignorance. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. So if you take shelter of a guru, and automatically he bestows the prema bhakti. So once prema bhakti comes, then automatically the ignorance is dissipated. Okay, on these lines, we have some other reference by Srila Prabhupada. And he gives an absolute solution here. What is that? The root of ignorance is material consciousness, which must be killed by spiritual consciousness. How do you counteract this? By spiritual consciousness or Krishna consciousness. The word bija nirharanam refers to burning the root cause of material life to ashes. In the Medini dictionary, yoga is explained by its result. Yoge purvartha sampraptu sangati dhyana yuktishu. When one is put into awkward position because of ignorance, the process by which one can be freed from this entanglement is called yoga. This is also called liberation. Muktir hita va anyartha rupam swarupena devastitaha. Srimad Bhagavatam 2.10.6. So in this way, hearing is very, very effective. And Srila Narada Muni also, when he was born as a maid servant, he was in a lonely place, and along with his mother, he invited the saintly people into their house and they served them. He had their uchista. In this way, he became completely transcendental, and in his next birth, he became a son of Brahma. And there onwards, he spread the glories of the holy name of the Lord all over the world. Not all over the world, all over the planetary systems. He traveled into various other planetary systems, and he can able to make so many disciples. Like, even Prahlada also is a disciple. When Prahlada was in the womb itself, Narada Maharshi gave him wonderful instructions and Harikatha, and he was so wonderful. So, in conclusion, I would like to share His Grace Gauranga Darshandas, 2 minutes of video. He talks about the hearing, the importance of hearing, Bhagavatam.
What is the power of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam? A beautiful Bhagavatam shloka describes this. Yasyam vai shruyamānayam Krishne paramapurushe bhaktirutpadyate pumsah shokamoha bhayapaha. Yasyam vai shruyamānayam. By hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is compiled so meticulously by Srila Vyasadeva at the maturity of his knowledge, yasyam vai shruyamānayam Krishne paramapurushe bhaktir utpadyate. By hearing Bhagavatam, a feeling of devotional service, devotion unto Lord Krishna will be invoked in the heart of a sincere hearer. Krishne paramapurushe bhaktir utpadyate. And what is the result of that invoking of devotional service unto Krishna? Shoka, moha, bhaya, apaha. Shoka means lamentation, moha means illusion, bhaya means fear. So all our lamentations, fears and illusions will be completely vanquished by developing love for Krishna, and that love for Krishna is developed by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. That is the effect of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna.
In this way, by attentive hearing, our shoka, moha, and bhaya is vanquished. So we should increase our taste for Krishna consciousness, and by engaging our body, mind, and manasa, vacha, karma, and then only we can able to progress in Krishna consciousness. And hearing is very important, and the two aspects of hearing. One is when we chant, we hear whatever we chant very attentively. That is the one thing. And the other side, hearing the glories of the Lord. They are available in the Gita and Bhagavatam. In this way, we can surely progress in our Krishna consciousness. Thank you very much. Grandhara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.